Die Sterne heiße, oh, wie schön verdienest du die Nacht. Wie schmiegst du hin, o Sonne, du, es hält aus Seele und Aug. Wie schmiegst du hin, o Sonne, du, des hält aus Seele und Aug.
Verbreitet mir auf Good afternoon and welcome to the Choral Meg Roundtable. This is the first episode of many roundtables to come, and today I am with a number of conductors, young conductors from South Africa. Most of them have done so well in the past few years, and I'm sure all of us can attest to the statement that I just made. I'm going to ask all of them to introduce themselves first before we can get to the topic of today. I'm so happy to have you gentlemen joining us today on the Choral Meg platform. And I'm excited, actually, I'm looking forward to an exciting discussion with the four of you. And I believe that the future of choral music is in the hands of people like you. And a lot of people in the whole of South Africa are looking up to you. And you've proven that in a number of years with the number of choirs you've conducted and the number of projects you've been involved in. And we take pride and we are so excited as Choral Meg to be hosting you today. Gentlemen, welcome. I'm going to ask Mr. Dumisani Tembani to first introduce himself.
Thank you, Sydney, very much. Good afternoon to you and good afternoon to the viewers at home. My name is Dumisani Tembani, a young conductor, as you've indicated, from the province of the Eastern Cape. I'm one of the privileged conductors to have many choirs in the province. First was a conducting number of choirs, but I've been known by conducting Zwelicha Adult Choir, also conducting the University of Fort Hare Choir, conducting the Lovedale College FET College Choir, and the Zwelicha Methodist Church Choir. I think let me pause there. I'm also a lecturer of choral studies at the University of Fort Hare. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dunza. You've done a lot. That's very impressive. Mr. Matlala?
Good day, listeners. Speaking here is Tshepo Matlala. I'm the conductor at the Tshepo Health Science University, formerly known as Mdingi. I'm also a chorister and assistant conductor at Popano Chorus, and I'm also a conductor of URC Soshanguve Church Choir. I've been in the industry for quite some time, and I've learned a lot from my fellow colleagues, and I'm still in a learning curve, and I hope the little information that I have will assist us, the next generation, as Mr. Masetlhe alluded that it will help us to alleviate most of the challenges that we have going forward. I thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. We also have Mr. Monde. Welcome, sir. Please unmute yourself.
Apologies for that. Thank you, my brother, for having me on the show, and I want to greet all the viewers at home. As you've heard, my name is Monde Mdingi, born and bred in Cape Town, Gugulethu. I am the conductor of Joyful Harmonies, Fezeka Senior Secondary School, also based in Gugulethu, and a newly formed chamber choir by the name of Isandi, South Africa. I studied at the University of Cape Town, sang in many choirs, including the Matthew Singers, Princess Quest Singers. And I think all those different conductors have contributed in what you ultimately regard as Monde Mdingi today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Pooe. And last but not least, we've got Mr. Itumeleng Pooe. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Sydney. Good afternoon to you, gentlemen, and to the rest of South Africa. My name is Itumeleng Pooe. My 8 to 5 is being a teacher, a singing teacher, and also a conductor at Northwest Musicon in Northwest here, Flexdorp. I conduct 2 orchestras there. The one is a symphony orchestra, and I also have a symphonic wind orchestra. In terms of choirs, the last time I conducted a choir, I conducted Free State Choristers. but I'm also a former conductor of Northwest University Serenaders. I've also sung with the Chamber Choir of South Africa, led by Mr. Michael Dingan, but also I'm an alumni of the World Youth Choir. I do coachings here and there, work with ensembles. Yeah, that's what I do.
Thank you so much, gentlemen, and welcome once again. To kickstart our discussion, the first question would be, in my observation, my personal observation, most of the institutions around the world, including government, we've had an issue, or I have a problem with people regarding people who are 50 years or 45 years as youngsters or as youth, because I feel like some people are very, very scared to pass the baton to the young leaders. And in my view, I see you guys as the future of the choral music in South Africa. So we've seen over the years, we've had a problem, and people are very scared actually to start studying choral music or classical music or opera because of the situation we are finding ourselves in. So I would like us to unpack that and also come up with plans, for the future. Someone who's watching us at home, who's actually willing or intending to be like you guys, who wants to control a choir on stage. Is there a future for them in this industry? If not, what are our plans as young conductors to change the status quo? I've seen, government institutions, for instance, calling people who are 46, 47 youth, and also getting the government institution employing more old people than young people. I don't know if we are not ready maybe, or we don't raise our hands enough to say, guys, can we help you? Because all of us here, I think we can agree to the fact that we've got mentors, and those mentors have groomed us so well, hence we have so many beautiful CVs. With respect to them, we need also to be mentors to the young ones. Are we creating a good platform for them? If not, what needs to be done? Can I start with you, Mr. Mdingi?
All right. Thank you for raising such a question. There has been a bit of controversy around the issue of legends within our space of choral music, especially as it relates to the whole question of grooming versus creating space for the younger generation to come in. I absolutely agree with the principle that there should be a space given for young conductors to start stepping in quite firmly. But at the very same time, I do want to submit that the most senior conductors in our fraternity still have an undeniable role to play in as far as you said, mentoring, and just continuing to pave the way moving forward. It's very sad to think that there are people out there who dream of starting choirs, but they do not have any idea as to how to navigate. So it is very true what you're saying, that we need to start coming in as the young conductors, so that those who are even younger than us, who look up to us, can see us as role models and see us as a testimony that, okay, this is doable, and you do not have to be of a particular age necessarily to do it. So that would be my immediate take to the question.
Okay, thank you very much. Your view, Mr. Matlala?
Yeah, it is very important to groom someone. I'll speak on about my experience. When I was introduced to choral in this level, I was a chorister at a choir called Pioneer, a choir which was based in Pretoria, based in Shanguzi. My mentor there was Gabulani Matibela. He is late, may his soul rest in peace. So he's the guy who groomed me. and introduced me to conducting and instilled the confidence to stand in front of the choir because he saw the potential in me. And later, with time, I joined Kopano Chorus around 2006. That's where I met my current mentor, Monde, whom I've learned a lot from him. He's just one genius, that guy. And I've learned a lot from him, handling the choir, how to challenge the music, how to solve problems with the choir, all of those things. So I got appointed as the head conductor at the Mdingi, now Tshepo time. And the same thing, I had a guy whom I took as my assistant, and I took it upon myself to pay for his tuition with Mr. Kibit Fadi, private lessons, to teach him theory on all that, because I saw the potential in him, and it's a lonely nugget. I've been taught, I've been given an opportunity to learn. So I saw the potential in the guy, so that let's handle the choir together, because you are my assistant. I wanted to equip him. So it was like me grooming him because of the experience that I had from other guys. So it's from an individual, when you see potential, you groom the guy, because I was told leaders, they lead from behind. So you can't always want to lead. What happens when you fall? The people behind you, obviously, they're gonna fall in that place. So I will encourage conductors to groom people in their choirs whom they see the potential, and go extra mile. If it means going deeper into your pocket to equip and develop that particular person, I will encourage conductors to do that.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Mr. Matlala. Mr. Tembani, your view, please.
Thank you, Sydney. It is a very broad topic indeed. To get into the other angle, okay, let me first say it is very important, really, for young conductors first to take the space vigorously, not to wait for anyone to give one space, but we should take that space as young people, because no one will allow us to do so. Number two, I think it is also very important for us to look at the inception of this genre. Number one, I wouldn't love to recruit or to groom someone and give him a platform whilst I know very well that I give him a dry area to plow some seeds and expect some fruit at the end of the day. The choral space on itself, I believe it's not in a good space. Number one, the choral music, the genre itself, it is formed, or its inception, it is formulated around competition, to be specific. Therefore, there will be absolutely no development that will take place in that area. So if I think we need to change this mentality, we need to change this thing of choral competition, so that when you develop someone, you develop it as a full musician. So it gives me a worry. I think let me first pause there, because I want us also to deal with the issue of competition versus a choir. But the inception, or the way in which choirs are formed, even during the 1900th century, it was mainly on competitions. And when its development takes place in industrialization during 1936, when the spread of choral music around the country, you would see the main thing that was popular, it was competition. So if we are creating or developing conductors in that space, I think we're going nowhere. But maybe I'll come later with some of the solutions that I think might help the fraternity as well. Also, what I think it is also important is the audience development, because also contributes in the fall of the genre. but I will come to those even later. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Pooe. What are your thoughts?
Thank you, Dr. Masetlhe. Let me start maybe with this one of legends, so, as you put it. For me, it is a very. I'm of the opinion that in art there shouldn't really be an age limit. I will share something a bit weird. My eldest student, since I was teaching singing at the Musicon, was 72 years. And I remember when I used to study in Finland, I once attended a concert of a man that was 90 years old, a tenor, that gave concerts privately at his home. And that already says to us, is it a question of age or a question of ability? And if we are able to answer that, then perhaps our view on this issue of conductors that are older than us or more experienced than us, we can perhaps have a view that is maybe inclusive. We need each other.
Yeah.
Perhaps the younger conductors are bringing a bit of fresh energy, fresh ideas, and the more experienced conductors are still there to continue to mentor, to continue to guide. So I'm not a fan of putting an age limit, if I may put it in that way, to what a person is capable of doing. But also, as Bradumza has alluded to something that I think is important, the role of competitions. What is it really doing to us as conductors, first of all, to the singers that are there in choirs themselves, but also the development of all these artists that we are talking about, conductors as well as singers? Because we've seen over the years the choral space developing many singers going abroad. But if I may be the devil in the room, how many conductors have been there that we can say have a stable career abroad, number one, that we can have a stable job in music? So for me, it's a fine balance between what the both worlds, those of that of the ones that are experienced and us who are still continuing in this journey. What can we do to help each other? My personal view is the kitchen is big enough for all of us to cook our own meal. We don't have to all go for the same stove. The kitchen is really big enough for some to bake and for some to cook and for other ones to fry there at the corner.
Very interesting. Gentlemen, this takes me to my next question. You raised very important points there. Mr. Tembani, competition versus concerts and audience development, what needs to be done? Because I can start a competition now and I can assure you I'm going to have more support than if I had a concert. What needs to be done there? Can I start with you, Mr. Tembani?
Thank you, Sydney. I think, okay, let me make an example. I was preparing for a competition. I still remember it was 2014 or 2013. And then it happens that I requested a sponsor from someone whom I know very well. And he said to me, I must just come up with my budget. And my budget really was about 56,000 Rand to cater for everything, preparing for a competition. And he asked me one question: how much are you going to get if you become a winner in that competition? And then I indicated that the highest price is about 18,000 to 20,000. And he said to me, hey, this doesn't make any business sense to me as a sponsor, because how about giving you this 56,000 Rand and then you organize a concert with a 10,000 rand and take the rest of 46,000 rand to your pocket of your choir. It is because of the inception of the choral music itself, the singers itself. We are all recruited in that kind of a space. We can't even make any difference between the two. You can't even make a business sense between the two. Therefore, development will suffer in the process because each and everyone is doing that just for fun. Whilst this music is also carried to others. So if you develop such conductors in that space, really, you are not making any justice to those young conductors. I think what we need to do, we need to take advantage of this COVID-19 pandemic. I'm going for chamber choirs. Chamber choirs, if you have a limited number, just a limited number of singers, but with purpose of what you want to do with your choir, because you can have I can have great singers from the Eastern Cape, but if Tshepo is privileged in Medunsa to have facilities and everything, Tshepo will always be dominant in terms of results and other things as well, because it's got all the resources. But if I look at the choir inception or choir development from another angle, that my choir will not only focus on competitions, but it will do concerts that will survive the same choir on its own, so that generation to generation to come benefit from what the choir is doing. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ntate Tembani. Want to contribute there, Mr. Mdingi?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I would like to come in on this point. Largely to concur with Mr. Tembani. The problem, I'm not sure whether to say it is with us or the choir or both, because I'll give you an example. A few years ago, I was preparing for a concert, because most of us do concerts as well as competitions. So I'm sure we will relate to most of these issues. So as I was preparing this one particular piece, a chorister asked me, "Where are we going to sing this piece?" And then you should see the reaction when you begin to say, "We are preparing for a concert, remember?" And then they will be like, "Oh, but I was under the impression that we were preparing for a competition, And then can you imagine how discouraging that is for a conductor? Because it basically means that to get the full attention and the full exuberance from your choristers, you need to start speaking this language that, we are going to a competition. Other than that, you get minimal interest from it. But having said that, I do believe strongly so that competitions are a vibrant and even necessary way, of keeping us, generated and sort of keeping us in the game. So they are essential.
Monde, I think you got muted there. Oh, yeah, thank you. You can continue, sir.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, can you hear me? Okay, so I was saying competitions are essential. They are good for us, but they should never define why we exist. This is why you get minimal attendance, as Mr. Tembani just said. That is why you get minimal attendance in your rehearsal when you say we are preparing for a concert versus a competition. So it is very important that we start changing this mindset, both within ourselves as conductors, but more importantly with our choristers, whether it is a chamber choir or a bigger choir. If you can get them to buy into this idea that this is the reason why this choir exists, is not particularly for competitions only. Competitions will be there. We will participate when we can, but there is a bigger picture. There is a more developmental space out there that we can tap into, other than limiting ourselves and putting ourselves in a box called a competition.
I agree with you fully there, Ntate. Mr. Matlala, do you think competitions are developing choirs or breaking them? What are your thoughts?
It's a system of which we are psychologically trapped into, and especially in the Black society, where competition is the main thing for the choir. My personal belief is in our current situation, it's not doing well for the choir. Because I'll mention one thing, which relates to what Mr. Dumisani said earlier. We can spend more money, we can spend 50,000 going to a competition, along with the first prize is 10,000 rand. And that thing, it affects development of choir, thinking out of the box to make money. Like he said, it doesn't make business sense. For an example, choirs now rely on competition for a source of fun. Unlike a choir on its own, go out and seek for funding, seek for sponsors. I mean, even now we can only name few choirs telling what dinner is sponsor. A choir being sponsored by Nike or Adidas or Ford or Init, because we are not used to that. That's the systemic area we are trapped into. What we wait for, get a hand out, waiting for I'll give any particular association, the music choral competition, to seek for sponsors and to host a competition, and we come and register to participate. So if the associations fail to get the sponsors, then we as the choirs, we have nowhere to go. So in that manner, the competition is the way we are thinking as choirs. Competition is the main thing. It's not really bearing us good fruit, because we are trapped. We must go through competition. If there are no competitions, people are very reluctant to come for results at concert. So that's one thing we need to. I still have a point about it to break it down further. The competition, this thing of competition versus concert, it starts with the choir, because if we adopt this thing out to run a choir like a business, like my colleagues have alluded to, we will have a lot of things. We will be able to keep our choristers. Choristers need to benefit from the choir, unlike them being the slaves of choiring. I'm a concert, they contribute 50 rand, 30 10 they contribute, always they contribute. So we need to have a way where we run a choir like a business, so that we know for it. We've got an executive, it's like an executive of the like an organization. We treat our choristers like staff members. It must be run properly and professionally, so that there are benefits.
No, I agree with you on that. Mr. Pooe, how do we change the mentality of our audience? Because for us to have successful concerts, we need to have audience that is willing to come support us. So how do we, as young conductors, as choir administrators, change the mentality, the mindset of our audience? Just to show them that it's not only competitions that we can participate in, we can also have successful concerts. How do we achieve that?
Yeah. There was something I wanted to comment on, but maybe I'll get an opportunity a bit later. I think an audience, just like on TV, a viewer is an important part of what we do in the arts. In my view, I think we need to start by going back. This thing is about culture as well. I remember growing in a space in the Val where there were concerts by church choirs, where we would go in the evenings and on Saturday evening and on Sunday as well, in the morning or in the afternoons. And we can look at that and take it for granted, because after all, how much are we going to pay for an entrance fee? Maybe 25 rands to make it a little bit more accessible. But the main thing there is not only money, it's getting people to subscribe or prescribe to a certain culture. I mean, why is it that I do not mind to drive from here to Durban when I know that the KZN Field is playing and they have invited such and such a conductor, me being an audience member at that moment? It is not because I'm rich or I can afford that. Okay, part of it is true. I can afford probably to go there somehow. But it is also because it's part of the culture that I am involved in as an audience member, both to learn, but also to see how other people are doing things. So I think we are at a point where we need to, first of all, develop that kind of culture of constant performances. You see, where things went wrong is when we told people that competition standards are different from from concert standards. It shouldn't be like that. After all, it's about performance. Both of them is about performance. The one is just adjudicated. Actually, even the other one is adjudicated because audience members will have an opinion. So that's what I'm saying. It's about driving a certain culture, learning from a certain culture. And I promise you, I'm speaking from both the instrumental side, which is orchestras, and with choirs. I mean, we do not have many performances with my orchestra. And before we actually have a big concert for the year, we would have done at least 4 public performances for free. Just be at the mall, set up, play. Just go to a few maybe restaurants with some string quartets or whatever. Play, let people see you, let people get used to you. And let me tell you, we started this thing, and I think we invited Choral Meg actually some 2 years ago to come and take pictures and view this. And right there, that moment as we were playing at the mall, people started to donate money without us even saying, please donate. They just appreciated and asked, when are you going to come back? So that is part of what we would call audience development in that way, and
Yes.
trying to attract this new audience, people that might not know that there's an orchestra just here around the corner or there's a choir just there on the other side. And again, I would like to track back to the issue of choir modeling. I 100% I agree with Bratumza when he says the way we have modeled our choir actually is a model that was suggested by competitions that a normal choir should have 60 people. And what has that done actually? It has afforded those who can afford to buy their success to recruit members all over this country because they have the financial muscle. So from having a choir of 50 people, you end up having a choir of 140 people, and yet you need only 60 on stage. But those are choirs that can afford to spend for this prestige that we are talking about. On the other hand, for conductors, remember, a competition is seen by many people, and if a competition is well established, it's played online, there are DVDs, there are CDs, and that also creates an illusion of instant success. That's why you get other conductors being more, known and famous more than others. It's what comes out of the competition, but the question always remains, at what cost? Again, I point out, remember, others can afford to essentially buy their success by recruiting all over, get the best singers, fly them in, or get them in a bus, whatever the case might be, because competition is also associated with prestige. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's really nothing wrong with that. But again, and I'm guilty of that too, as a conductor, going and getting members somewhere. But the question will always be, what happens to those other ones that you are overlooking at a particular moment? So the choir modeling as well, the model of a choir needs to also be looked at in a different way, a way that has that balance between prestige and this culture of constantly performing, but also coupled with development on the other side.
Very interesting, Itu. And I think that's a very important contribution you just made there. I've got a number of colleagues on Facebook also contributing to the topics that we are discussing today. Mr. Michael Dingan saying, spot on. Retirement in the arts is not per government restriction. Wisdom is timeless. Meseleka saying, Leonard Bernstein died conducting at the age of 75. It has become a habit in SA to sideline people with wisdom. Professor Mgoma passed on at around 78. He was still conducting. Wisdom, Zanzi. And then Mr. Njeza, conductors mature in their craft as they grow older. I have taken pleasure in watching Maestro Matthews becoming a refined conductor as he's growing older. This takes me back to that issue of age. I've been observing that, and it's quite disturbing. I was talking to Dumza earlier, saying, you know what, in the next 20 years, guys, or 30 years, for argument's sake, you will be regarded as legends, the four of you. You will be 40 years or 30 years older than now. So would you be happy being sidelined? And what are you doing today to ensure that you are relevant even 30 years from now? Can I start with you, Mr. Mdingi?
Okay. Firstly, I want to thank the gentlemen that have contributed on Facebook because it's very important to accentuate this principle that really you cannot sideline people on the basis of their mature age because it is through that maturity that younger conductors like ourselves get to learn. Because if they were to exit from the fraternity, where would we access them? And where would we otherwise have learned what we've learned from them? So it's a very, very important thing to be observed. Now, I think in order to remain relevant in the future, it's all about discipline. And it's always about remaining humble. Because as Itumeleng just said, music will eventually evolve and it will develop. So how does one then get to keep up? It is of no use denying your age, but rather embracing it. So if I were to now imagine myself as a 65-year-old, for example, I would have to work within my capacity as a 65-year-old, but drawing from my experience, which I will have accumulated over the years. I would not regard myself as one who then competes with the youngsters, but rather as I would use the stage as an opportunity, firstly to learn from them, you know, because they will be bringing fresh ideas, as Itumeleng just said. But also, I would also regard myself as a model of virtue, so that they themselves can learn from my wisdom, which I would have accumulated. But if one can be humble while doing so, and be a book that is available for younger conductors to learn from. Because you raised a very interesting question earlier, where you said, if there's a conductor out there, a young one, who wishes to start a choir, you know, would they be able to do so? And my immediate response to that would be, there is no such a thing as too many conductors or too many choirs. So let those conductors come in, but the important thing is for them to be groomed in the right way. And so if I were to become a 65-year-old, that would be my role. It would be to be a mentor to younger conductors. But I cannot achieve any of those things if I do not have the discipline that goes with it.
Yeah. Mr. Tembani, we are approaching the end of our show, unfortunately, and it's so interesting to be in this room today. Mr. Tembani, what is the challenge faced by a young conductor in South Africa today? And what do you think the solution would be, you know, going forward?
Okay, I think the major challenge here is that we are to be blamed sometimes as conductors who are conducting choirs, because now we are producing conductors that are very irrelevant for our field, which is choral music. Where myself as a conductor of the Choral choir will go to a competition with the 2 bottles of whiskey in my boot, knowing very well immediately after my performance, I will enjoy those 2 bottles of whiskey in front of my choristers. Those young boys look closely to you, because remember, you are the role model. You are the center of attraction in your choir. So if you don't do things accordingly, definitely they will follow suit. Look, if you've got a fine eye, look at the audience. Those are choristers. Everyone rushed to be an audience now. We keep on recruiting time and again, time and again, time and again. One sings in a choir for 2 years. Then the other year you will see him in the audience, trying to intimidate choirs, trying to do all these sorts of things, of these wrong things to the choirs, simply because we as current conductors, we are not role models to our choristers. One other thing that I wanted to allude at is that on the point that you raised, is conductors should be open to ideas, especially in our generations. We should be open. If we are clear, look, this is what we are supposed to do by those who are experienced, you rather do that as well. We become so fascinated by our art. We don't want to listen to Monde. If Monde is coming from Cape Town, you say, no, I'm not going to listen to Monde because Monde is my competitor. Therefore, there will be no development that will take place in that area. Thank you, my leader.
Yeah, I agree with you in that. And, you know, I've worked with maybe, if not all of you before. And, you know, I always ask my friends for opinions. Itumeleng can attest to that, you know, because I feel like I can learn a lot, especially from our generation, you know. I also consult my elders like Bra Mike, Dingani, and, you know, you learn a lot, you know, opening your mind and opening your mind to new ideas will actually develop you as an individual and the people you are leading. I totally agree with you there. And I've got another question from Masetlhe, gentlemen. I'll direct this to Mr. Matlala. Guys, when are we going to hear your music? When are you going to start recording CDs? When are we going to start buying music conducted by you guys in the music shops? Mr. Matlala. When are we going to start buying your music from music shops? When are you going to start recording your music, your works, and archiving them? I think it's a very important question. It is.
Yeah, but I just want to be clear. My compositions
your work as a conductor.
Well-known because now where I'm based as a conductor, I'm in an institution. The mandate is different. It's to promote the brand and all that. And I had my own choir, community choir, where the mandate is different. Definitely, we will have such. But that's not an excuse. We did plan to record with the university, I think 2 years back, but we were disturbed by the change from Mdingi to Masetlhe. So a lot of things internally were disturbed. But it's part of our plan because I've already composed a national, a university anthem, that which we want to record a CD and put in more songs. So yeah, in a year or so, because now things are in place at the university with the new management. So I'm hoping as part of our future plans, we will be able to record a CD.
Yeah, I think it's very important because archiving our music, you know, our music is not archived. It's difficult to get a score of an African piece, even on Google. Guys, can I challenge you, like the four of you, and I would like to put you on a spot. I know it's not a simple challenge, but I would like you to commit to the challenge that I'm going to put on the table right now. You are conductors. I was watching Mr. Njeza's show, I think on Thursday, and he raised a very important issue about developing women conductors. And I totally agree with that view because in this show today, we don't even have a woman. And it does not mean there are not capable or talented women out there. So can I challenge the four of you guys to say in the next conversation, each one of you will come with the woman that they're developing. You know, I'm sure you've got capable women in your choirs. And if we want to see the future brighter or better than now, we should start taking charge now and bringing about change, you know. Is it the challenge that you are willing to take?
On my side, yeah. The issue that I'm with, she's a conductor. at the primary school under Gauteng. It was first time conduct, I think 2 years back. On her first year, offered provincially. And then the second year, which is last year, she ended up national. So there is a lady that I'm working with currently.
Mr. Mdingi?
Specifically on the challenge itself, I really salute you for bringing that challenge forward, because it's something that I hold quite close to my heart. I even raised this with a number of great musicians in the country, including some of the chat groups that I affiliate in. I really feel that it is time to see more female conductors, especially young ones. As a matter of fact, I am currently holding conversations with some prominent female musicians in the country, including Professor Twani, and Sisno Musa Silike, around the question of how do we empower female conductors so that we can see them coming more prominently on our stages. So for me, I welcome that challenge with open arms.
Thank you very much. Remember, this is a public domain, gentlemen. People are watching out there. So next time, I'm going to expect all of you to bring those ladies, and we should be able to see your progress with them in the next 2-3 years. Mr. Pooe?
Okay. Yeah, funny enough, I already started this thing probably 2 years ago or so, focusing on kids that are already in school, that are coming to us where I work for lessons. And it started really with a question by a young girl that asked me. She took my one of my batons and said to me, "Sir, is this really what you do for an entire hour in front of musicians, just doing this? Is this all you do? Is that all you do?" And that was a very honest question, if you think about it. You stand there in front of people and you push air, and then the sound coming out from the other side. So I had to explain to this wonderful child who is a singing student, and try to make her understand of what really goes on. And maybe this is also another discussion for another day, maybe on this platform or another platform, about really what is it that conductors do. A lot of us are called conductors, but what is it that we actually do? What does a conductor do? We may think it's something that is very easy to answer, because very often you are called a conductor based on the end product, which is what people see there. But maybe we need to also discuss further, what is it that conductors do actually? So I then decided from that point onwards to say, for every lesson that this young girl attends, I will just steal about 10 minutes and just show her a few basic things and talk to her and give her homework and say, go and watch this, go and look at this, come back with answers. And you will be surprised by what you find people to be thinking that conductors are, and that what conductors are doing. So yeah, definitely sure, I accept the challenge. I'll even take it a step further. I'll post a video very soon and show you the work that we are doing already with these young.
Thank you so much. I will be very interested in paying for a ticket, a concert ticket, saying maybe SMU conducted by Tshepo Matlala and a female conductor, Monde Mdingi and a female conductor. Mr. Tembani, what do you think about the challenge?
No, that's a very great challenge. As if you read my mind. I think two weeks back, I wrote a request from my HOD, as I'm the lecturer of choral studies in the university, that there are females who registered specifically for doing choral conducting. Because after finishing the course, they want to be conductors. And quickly, I have to make that request to say to the HOD, please allow me to do this module for them. And fortunately, it was approved. I think it was approved 4 weeks back. So there are young ladies that I'm working with. I've started with the basics, of course, because as Pooe said, Ikuti, some perceive conducting as something else. First, you need to put the basics online so that everybody could know it. So I'm taking also the challenge. I will post also, Mr. Pooe, the video next week. I will challenge you with my students. So next week, I'm going to post 2 students online so that you can check on them. They are doing choral conducting with me.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much, guys. I think you've answered the questions I've always had, you know, of female conductors development. And I'm very interested because I believe it's in the capable hands. I believe in the 4 of you guys, and I think the future of our choral music fraternity looks very bright. The other day I said, I'm not scared, I'm not worried, knowing that I've got leaders like you around South Africa who can actually change the complexion of this whole thing. And you know, I think out of this conversation, gentlemen, we are in agreement that we need to embrace people who came before us and respect them. Within the same tone, we also need to pave ways for the future generations, bearing in mind that in future we will be the legends, you know. And I'm also happy that we agreed that from this conversation we're going to have 4 new female conductors. That's very interesting. And I think on the follow-up conversation we'll have one of our legends to come advise, and then we'll have your female conductors as well available, who you'll be mentoring from today going forward. And we will also have people who are going to help us with marketing, experts in the marketing field, in terms of audience development and how do we market and promote our gigs, you know. And then I think people can learn a lot from these roundtables. Now, in the interest of time, I would like to give each and every one of you 1 minute to give us their parting shots and give us their future plans. Tshepo?
On my side at the university, like I alluded earlier, the mandate is to promote and market the brand of the university. But we started with something else because of the challenges we had this year, the COVID and the GBV thing. So going forward, we're going to engage more in the public space, addressing the social ills around our communities. We had one last week at the Wonder Park Mall where we were denouncing the GBV thing. And as a medical university, we were also promoting the COVID regulations, washing your hands and so on, the benefits thereof. So yeah, that's our plan. Outside the scope of the concerts, the programs that the choir usually have, we're gonna now put in more things like addressing the social issues in the public space, like the malls and so on. That's more of what we're gonna do as of next year. And yeah.
Okay, Mr. Mdingi, your parting shot.
Okay. There was a question that was regarding a CD. Just to quickly answer that, it's every conductor's wish, or at least it should be every conductor's wish to have an album. And for me personally, it's definitely work in progress, but it's very difficult, you know, to acquire such things, as it requires a lot of admin and a lot of logistics and finances. But it's definitely work in progress for me. And thanks for that challenge, man. But I would also take it a step further and say there's a lot that we can do as choirs. I see no reason why we can't do our own productions. We have got theaters all over the country. We can approach those theaters and do productions, you know, and create academies within our choirs, teach music theory, explore instruments. Why can't we have violinists within the choir? Why can't we have saxophonists and so on? So those would be the ways in which we navigate forward. The sky is not the limit. The sky is not the limit. So there's a lot that we can offer in this space. And I want to thank you, sir, as I conclude, for the opportunity that you've given us. And I want to thank these gentlemen on the panel. I've learned a great deal from them, and I certainly look forward to having more conversations with great men of their caliber. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Monde. Dumza?
Thank you, Sydney. To answer the question again of recording, I've already recorded. I think 3 weeks back, I've recorded a CD with the university choir. So I will indicate when it's available. So I've already recorded. Number 2 is just a word of advice to the choral community. I think we also need to look at this choral music thing on the business side this time around, not to be only driven by passion. We need to look at on the business side. We need to take things bit by bit. I'm still very stubborn on the issue of chamber choirs. And also remember, our music was not meant for a larger audience. We need to target certain people who might do some impact on our choirs in terms of contributions. Small concerts that will target to certain people so that we don't drop the standards. To have a stadium that will not give you anything, so it's of less nothing. So I will suggest that we start things, especially during this COVID-19. We need to start small choirs, small audience, everything. We start from basic so that we can go afar. Thank you very much, my brother.
Thank you, Dumza. Itu, your parting shot.
Thank you, Dad. And thank you to the gentleman for today. It was really a fruitful engagement. Well, number one, I think what COVID-19 has taught us is that there are alternative ways of doing things. I mean, now virtually, I'm in Eastern Cape, Western Cape, and Gauteng, and yet I'm sitting here on my couch. And that is the power we have, the power of technology. And I think to address the issue of recordings, that might be one thing that we may have to look at. Start a YouTube channel, post on Facebook. It's amazing that we can still be able to watch your Nicolaus Hanenko, your Bernsteins on YouTube. So why not start something like that? 2, on the issue of development, it's also important to also develop ourselves. You know, the celebrity status that most conductors hold must not also close doors of learning. All of us need to learn in order to teach what we know. And lastly, I said this earlier on, and I'm going to say it again. The kitchen is big enough for all of us to prepare our own meals. Not all of us have to do the same thing. The space is big enough for all of us in music to do many, many things. And I am so happy that I'm seeing a lot of young conductors, young musicians that are getting involved in research, that are starting choirs, I'm just so excited. One thing that I would like to see, lastly, is to maybe one day have a competition that is specifically designed only for conductors and not choirs. Only for conductors. That will also serve as a great tool for development. Thank you very much for the opportunity, and thanks to you, gentlemen.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Thank you so much for honoring this appointment. I'm much honored to have great leaders like you in this conversation. And I believe that from today, we can just move further. You know, no more turning back, gentlemen. This thing is in our hands. You know, let's break all the chains of tribalism and all these nasty things and make it a point that we unite our fraternity going forward. I believe, and I'm still going to maintain what I believe in. The future of choral music is in capable hands. It's all up to us as young leaders, as young conductors, owners of businesses in the choral fraternity to ensure that this does not die in our hands. It will be very shameful and painful for the choral music to die in our hands. Let's carry on, gentlemen, and push this thing. I believe that it's a gift from God, and we just need to make it flourish, you know. Thank you very much for joining us today. Thank you to viewers at home, and I believe Your contributions are very important to us. Thank you for supporting choral music and the Choral Mag. At least from this conversation, we are going to have 4 new female conductors. And I believe that all conductors around South Africa can take this challenge and develop a female conductor as well. Maybe in the next few years, we'll have 30, 40, 50 new female conductors. Who knows? My name is Masetlhe. Thank you so much for tuning in. Good day.